Hello and welcome everyone to the 19th episode of Dream Life. My name is Salman and I will be your host for the next half an hour. The main goal of these programs is to explore our life in a sense that we can learn about our options and to make better choices for our lives. And one of the principles that we have been emphasizing from the first day, from the first program, is about the way we think. Why is it important? Because the way we think is going to make us feel in a certain way. And since feelings are the compeller, the force behind all our actions, then if we can control our thinking, then we can control our feelings so we can get to the result that we want, producing the good feeling, the feelings that are beneficial to us. But first of all, let's talk about thinking. What is thinking? The thinking should be always an active process in a way that it can lead us towards the result we're looking for in life. Most people talk about state thinking as remembering things, but thinking is not remembering. Remembering is just reviewing what happens in the past, and that is not thinking. Thinking is always about future. It's about planning. It's about strategizing. It's about learning from the past mistake, but not dwelling on the past. And this can be explored and it could be beneficial in all aspects of our life, from relationship, from work environment, from physical health, even mental health. We can use these techniques that we are going to talk about in all these areas. The first thing is to learn how to ask better questions. 2,000 years ago, Jesus said, "Ask and you shall receive." And I believe he was asking, he told us to ask a good question, ask an intelligent question. Because once we ask questions, we have to answer that question. And some philosophers, I believe Socrates says that thinking is talking, soul talking to our spirit. So thinking is kind of asking and answering questions. That's how we process the thinking in our minds. And once we learn to make questions that are functional, questions that are beneficial to us, meaning that if we stop asking negative questions, which is not functional, and instead we can ask some positive questions that there is a way that we can get there or we want to get there. That's one way of kind of controlling our thought process so we can get to the things that we want as fast as we can. A better thinker always finds what works versus what should work. If you look at the United States, one of the strong and greatest nation on earth, if you look at the history of this country had its own challenges, from the wars and depressions and all those struggles that every nation goes through. But the way the Americans, the leaders, the thinkers looked at these issues was from the point that how can we fix what's going to work to make the situation better. And that's why we have this great nation who has accomplished, I think everybody would admit, things that no nation in the world has accomplished. And it's one of the strongest nations in the world. And that's why it has been functional. It has been able to overcome all the challenges throughout the years that has come to our way. And unfortunately, recent years, we can see that that polarized political views is not really helping this country to get a better place. And that was the secret. Anytime something happened, everybody put aside their political views and they just thought about what works. And that was the secret to success in this country. And on the other hand, we look at the governments who are idealistic and they're not really thinking what works versus they're going after what should work. And when we look at these countries, it's not too hard to point out that they haven't been that successful. I mean, look at North Korea and South Korea. They're same nation, same language, same religion. They're practically they're same people. And if you look at the business level of the business success that South Korea has accomplished, and it's no comparison to North Korea. It's because of this idealistic way of thinking. And I'm not trying to demonize one and praise the other one. It's just by looking at them, you can tell you don't want to live in North Korea, you want to live in South Korea. Why? Because this country has found a way to make things work. This country has found a secret to tackle their challenges in a way that would get them the result they want, versus getting stuck with an ideology that hasn't worked for years. And unfortunately, you can see throughout this world, there are still nations and governments are keep pressing for the same ideology that has not been worked for hundreds of years. But now let's come to a personal level. One might ask, how do I do that? How do I become a better thinker? It's not that complicated. There is a Japanese proverb that says, if you are trying to get rid of procrastination, start lazy. Start on a very small scale. You don't have to take giant steps, just one baby step at a time. But the secret is to be consistent with whatever you're doing, because that's going to add up to, over the time. And every person, when we get up in the morning, we can just stop and wait for a couple minutes. It doesn't have to be hours, couple minutes, half an hour if we can, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, just to meditate on good stuff and just think about how we can be a better person, a better dad, a better worker, a better neighbor, a better son, a better human being for that matter. And that a little extra effort that we put in over the time, it adds up, and on the other side of the aisle we become something very different. Plus, when we are starting with this kind of gratitude or this kind of positive way of thinking, something that is edifying, something that it builds up, and it's something with the look, actually it changes our direction towards the result that we want. For example, if we want to be a good person, we can say, what can I do? What can I start with the smallest thought, even if it's a thought, no action involved, but just a thought. How can I do some small thoughts, process some small thoughts, and kind of meditate on that small thought just to become a better person? And that's going to put us, it may not happen anything physically, but it's going to change our direction towards whatever goal we are aiming for. And that's why it's important. In the next couple of weeks, we are going to talk about 3 things. We're going to learn about how to get over things, how to get through things, and how to get to things. What I mean by how to get over things is how to get rid of pasty memories, things that happened in the past and that are not pleasant, that didn't make us happy or damaged us in one way or another. And they keep coming back to us, and they're like hunting us down, and we don't really know what to do. We don't like them, we hate them, and we despise them, but they keep coming, and we don't have any tools or strategy to get rid of these things. We're going to talk about that. We're going to see how we can learn to get rid of those. The second part is how to get through things. Any struggle, if we're trying to get rid of a habit that we don't like, we know it's not good for us, we know it's not good for our pocket, for our health, maybe for our family, or we're going to lose some weight, we're going to have a better peace of mind, going to get rid of our frustrations or whatever that's bothering us, whatever that's not giving us good feelings, but we don't know how to get rid of it. We're going to talk about the ways, the strategies that we can accomplish these things. And the third part is how to get to things. For example, if we want more love, more happiness, more peace of mind in our lives, more money, more any part of life that we want to refine and kind of have a tangible progress, accomplish a tangible progress in that part of our life, we can talk about that. But before that, we have to look at ourselves and kind of have a mental inventory. We have to look at our minds and see what kind of habits and patterns and way of thinking thought processes we have learned throughout our life, childhood or after that, whatever authority voices have been in our life, and we have learned these things. We have to look at those and kind of designate those and separate those and put aside those who are not beneficial or not really edifying, not helping us to get through our struggle, and keep those who are good and kind of helping us to get through the struggles, and add even more to those. And of course, in order to do that, we have to understand how our mind is, what our mind is. I mean, basically speaking, in a very basic language, I would say, our mind is two parts. It has two parts, conscious and subconscious mind. Conscious mind is the part who we analyze, we make decisions, logical decisions, and we criticize all day long. And that's using our five senses. And of course, always referencing back to the subconscious mind. But that's our conscious mind. Subconscious mind, however, is when our conscious mind is at sleep. For example, when we go to sleep, subconscious mind is taking care of all the function in our heart. For example, our heart beats 100,000 times a day, and it's controlled by our subconscious mind. Our breathing, our blood pressure, all those function that our organs are conducting in our body, it's all being done by our subconscious mind. And also, subconscious mind is known to be a place that our patterns and habits are stored. And most people would believe that also in our wisdom and our creativity, and problem-solving skills are residing in our subconscious mind. So that's important to understand, so we can separate these two and learn about them, so we can know how to utilize our God-given powers and God-given abilities, so to better our lives. It is extremely important for us to learn about our subconscious mind, because 9 out of 10 decisions that we make in our life comes from subconscious mind. And these are, I don't want this sound too so mysterious and out of reach. Basically, subconscious mind, if you look at it in a simpler term, is a bunch of programs that we have learned, or somebody had taught us, or we have learned on our own, and they just run automatically. And if you don't change anything, we don't make any changes to those programs, we're going to get the same results every time. Now, of course, subconscious mind has other responsibilities, as I mentioned previously a couple of minutes ago, that takes care of our body, our health, our breathing, heart beating, and all that good stuff. But that's a good part. That's a perfect. We don't want to touch that part. But the part that we have learned, these automated programs, is that we have to look into and do some changes if we want to really make changes in our lives. Because everything we learn, it becomes automated. That's how we learn how to use cars, we learn places, we learn skills, and we learn doing different things, and we don't have to learn it again, because subconscious mind takes that and automates that learning process, so we don't have to go through it. The problem with that is we learn some bad stuff. We learn how to get angry easily. We learn how to, because these are the state of mind that we go there basically. We learn how to become a nagger. We learn how to become frustrated. We learn how to become helpless. Learn helplessness, it's a big one. And these are the things that we have to look into and try to get rid of. Because if we don't change these programming, the way we think about these things, we're going to always end up in the same place. They look like these theme parks, these kind of tunnels with a little water going into. When you sit on top and the gravity kind of, you slide down, if they look like that, these patterns look like that, these programs, they're exactly the same thing, I would say. And if you don't do anything along the way, we're going to always end up in the same pool. And that's why we have people frustrated most of the times, even mad at themselves that, I always do this and I hate when I do this. Why? Because these programs are automated. They run by their own and just take you to the same place every single time. And one person that has pioneered, tackling this issue was Dr. Richard Bandler over 45 years ago. And he started creating some techniques, some strategies to actually help change this program in our minds. And if you look back, and one of the things that they used to do, and also Milton Erickson was a pioneer in using hypnosis They would put people in, they would hypnotize people, put them in hypnosis, and then they would talk to them and kind of help them or teach them or guide them to change these programmings so the outcome would be something totally different. This is how it started. So the reason I'm trying to explain the also history of this, because this is not something new. It has been there. It hasn't been tackled in a way that I believe Dr. Richard Bandler and John Grinder did it in early 70s, but it has been there, and it's a main thing to understand and to learn how to reprogram or deprogram, because our mind is like a program. It's like a computer. If we can install a program, we can delete the program. And we're going to learn, we're going to talk about these things, how to get rid of in a simpler terms that everybody can be benefited. In the beginning, they would put people into a light trance and help them get rid of these problems that they had in their mind. However, over the years, they have developed these new technologies called design human engineering and neurohypnotic repatterning. What these are some techniques that can help people to change and get rid of these programming or the problems that they have, mental problems that they have, without even going into a trance. And one of the tools used is called model of submodalities. How we use our senses to process information, that makes a big difference in the outcome of everything that we think about. For example, if you try to remember what happens yesterday, we might see it as a movie or clips or slides, and we might see ourselves inside those clips or movies, or we might see it through our own eyes and see these pictures and movies. So that's the difference. When we think of something, where is it, and what is the size and the distance, and how do we see ourselves? Are we associated with whatever we're seeing in our mind, or we're disassociated? We see ourselves in there, or we just look at it through our own eyes? And also, when we hear inner sound, inner voices, whenever we hear we hear somebody says something, how's that voice? Is it high pitch? Is it happy, lonely, angry, upset? Or these are all little submodalities that makes a huge difference in how we feel about what we remember, what we think about, how we process. And if you change any of these submodalities, you're going to change the outcome of how we feel after we review these things. And these are some things that we're going to learn through this program. When you're listening to the voices inside our head, it's either our own voice or somebody else's voices. These voices either coming in or going out. It's either to the left or to the right, and loud, soft, and all these little things are the difference. When we pay attention and kind of focus on this and know the difference, then we have the ability to change them. And here are the differences, because when somebody says, I feel angry or frustrated, actually they're doing anger or frustration. So the verb becomes an event, and so we're doing something. For example, anybody wants to get angry, we usually have a certain face that we make. We do something with our eyes, with our breathing, with our posture. This is something we do actually. This is what I'm trying to explain. And once we pay attention to these things and know the differences, then we can alter those, we can change those. This is the part that we don't have to go into a trance to understand or do something about it. All we have to do to change these submodalities, if we change our breathings, if we change the way we do something with our eyebrows or with our mouth or with our breathing, if we just change those, we can make a big difference. And our body allows us to think with feelings, because the best question is when somebody says, I feel angry or feel frustrated, is to ask them, and this sounds a little technical, but it's basically is, to ask them is, where did this frustration or anger start? Where did it start and where does it go? Because the feelings are starting from somewhere and going somewhere else. And if we can pay attention and we can track those, then we can some kind of have a handle on it, and we can direct the direction of their going. The quality of our thoughts are really determined with the kind of feeling that we're going through on a daily basis. For example, if we are thinking about something that is huge, it's like gigantic, of course we're going to have a more intense and more like high feelings and emotions about that. And if we do the same thing, same event, and make it a small movie, of course it's going to be less intense. Same thing with, do we associate ourselves with whatever is going through our minds? Do we see ourselves in there, or we just look through our eyes? For example, if I'm thinking about me going to a mall, am I looking at the mall, or am I looking at myself going into the mall? That's the difference. It doesn't sound very big deal, but it is. When I see myself walking in the mall, that means I have disassociated myself with the event that I've been going through. But if I see, remember yesterday's, mall trip, and looking through my eyes into a mall, I don't see myself. I just see a mall. Then that's I'm pretty much associated with what I'm seeing. The same thing with dangerous things, for example, or what things, what makes the difference on the size. For example, if we see a lizard, it might not really scares us to death, but when you see a dragon or a python, it's gonna scare you. So that's how when we change these submodalities, when we change the distance, as we talked about a couple sessions ago, it gives us a very different feelings. And the same thing about sounds. For example, if it's loud, if it's violent, if it's intense, if it's soft, these are all are going to make us feel totally different, make us have a totally different feelings. And the beauty of these things is once we distinguish these things, once we kind of understand what these things are, we track them down, we can put a handle on it, we can control these things. And that's the beauty of these things. The beauty of NLP is that these techniques are being developed in a sense that ordinary people can use it. You don't really have to go through intense courses or hours of training. All you have to do is learn about these submodalities, learn about these feelings, and try to understand where it starts and where it finishes, and separate these things like association or disassociation, or the loudness, or the color, or all these little submodalities, because these are the ingredients that are making up the emotions that we're experiencing. And our life is our emotion. We live what we feel. Our feelings is basically the whole entire life. And once we control that, we can really control our happiness. We can control many things in our lives, and we can go one at a time at these feelings that we have, because our feelings are the movements between solid and hollow parts of our body, and they always have a direction, and they can be more than 4 directions. For example, they're either going outside, going outward, or coming inward. That's how, because they're moving all the time, or they're rotating clockwise or counterclockwise. And if we pay attention to these, I remember an example. 2 years back, my daughter had this exam, and she couldn't go to sleep, even though she had studied and she was ready to take an exam. But she had this anxiety that wasn't letting her to go to sleep, because she needed to sleep to do good anyways for the next day. So she came to me and she said, "This is what I have." And I tried to talk to her, and I told her to kind of follow the direction of the feelings that she's having, that she's doing this anxiety thing. And at first it was kind of not familiar with how am I going to follow my feelings. But if you pay attention, you close your eyes, maybe kind of meditate and look at it, you can find the direction, because people usually actually point to where it hurts, or how it's having butterfly in their stomach and all these things. That's what it is exactly. So after a while, she could figure out that the direction that these feelings were moving, and I told her just to assume an imaginary handle and put it on their feelings. Don't do anything, just put it on, just go with the flow, with the speed that they're going. And once you do that, try to kind of install this handle on your feelings and go a little faster. And believe it or not, she felt more anxious when she did faster, and said, "Well, if you go faster, you can go slower." So she can slowly slow down the movements, and to the point that stopped, and she even went backward. And that's how, because our feelings are kind of a spring on a clock, an old clock. They kind of wind and unwind. And if we can learn these things, if we can follow the track of the movement of our feelings, we can unwind them, we can get rid of these things. That's basically how it sounds very simple, but it works. And sometimes we think that these things are really complicated, but any solution that works, I think we should use it, because who cares, as long as I'm happy and I can get rid of pasty memories, bad feelings, anxiety, anger, or whatever might be. Whatever works, I'll use it. And that's our goal in here, to introduce these techniques and strategies so everybody can use and benefit in their lives. And thank you so much. We come to the end of this program today. I hope it was beneficial for all those viewers who were looking into learning and exploring their life to get a better life and to have better results in their life. Thank you for watching.